How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Nun Daled, Daf 154 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, this is a starke daf, stark. Some real stuff here, real stuff over here. Like, there's a possibility even by the end of the daf, my brain's going to be a shtickle mushy. When's the last time we had to push through the mush? It's been a while, huh? I feel like in all of the 153 pages of BavaBasra so far, we probably only had to push through the mush a handful of times. Which I think, without comparing, I think that's, why Bava Metzia is just an insane Masechta, because you push through the mush like every day. Akoponim, there's some serious stuff here. It's Givaldig. Okay. Yeah, Modem Shtar Sheksavo, Tzarch L'Kaimu, Ein Tzarch L'Kaimu, but also, Kiyum Shtaris, Apesh also Apesh Hitir, like, a lot of stuff comes up. A lot of stuff. Okay. So, our journey begins on Daf Kuf Nun Gimel Amud Beis, all the way at the bottom. Alright, so our Mishnah had said that what did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said that you have a document. The document says that so and so is given stuff to so and so. Okay. Now, so we're gonna have the giver and the receiver. The nosein, the giver, and the makabel, the receiver. So the nosein says, I was a shchivmira and I am a shchivmira survivor, and therefore I get my stuff back. The makabel says, no, you were a bari. This was a matnas bari, and it's mine. You don't get your stuff back. So Rav Meir had said that the burden of proof is on the nosein, on the giver, to prove that he was in fact a shchiv mira, whereas the Chachamim say that the burden of proof is on the mekabel to prove that the nosein was a bari, and that it was a matnas bari. Now, the shaila is, what is this proof? So, frekti gemara rai b'mai. How exactly are we proving our case? Rav Huna Amaraya be'edim. Rav Huna says that it is with witnesses, that the nosein brings witnesses that according to Rav Meir, the nosein brings witnesses that he was a shchiv mira. According to the Chachamim, the Mekabel brings witnesses that the nosein was a bari at the time of the writing of the document, of the giving of the gift. Rav Chizda, Rav Bar Huna Amrei, whereas Rav Chizda and Rav Bar Huna say, Raya b'kiyum ashtar, that really according to the Chachamim, right, when the Chachamim say that the Makabel needs to prove that the nosein was that it's a matnas bari, they do this by being Makayim the shtar, that they have a document, that they're in possession of a document saying that the nosein gave them all this stuff. So if they can validate the document by proving the signatures of the witnesses, either the witnesses themselves prove it or they bring people who recognize the signatures, but they're Makayim the shtar, they validate the document, it's a valid document, and right now the nosein is a bari, he's healthy right now. So if they're Makayim the shtar to validate that it's a valid shtar, that it was written that the nosein was giving this stuff to the Makabel, and currently the nosein is a bari. So if they do that, then they can receive the stuff. Now, of course, though, according to Rav Meir, the nosein is not going to be Makayim the shtar. That wouldn't make any sense. Right? The point of being validating the document is for the Makabel. So even according to Rav Meir, even according to Rav Chizda and Rav Huna B'Rav Yeshua, who say we're talking about Kiyum Shtaris, that would specifically be for the Makabel, according to the Chacham, to be Makayim the shtar. According to Rav Meir, who says that the burden of proof is on the nosein, it would be with Edim that he was a shchiv mira at the time of the gifting. Okay. Rav Huna Amar, third line of the Gemara, Raya be'edim. So Rav Huna had said that the proof that we're talking about is witnesses. That according to Rav Meir, the nosein brings witnesses that he was a shchiv mira. According to Chacham, the Makabel brings witnesses that the nosein was a bari. They're arguing right? The machlokes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim aligns with machlokes between Reb Yaakov and Reb Nosson yesterday. Right, the shaila of do we go based on Zlin and Basar Hashta, right? Reb Nosson said we go based on now, and therefore if he's currently a bari, so then it's matnas bari. If he's currently a shchiv mira, then it's a matnas shchiv mira. According to Reb Yaakov, we go based on the chazaka that betzim right now the property belongs to the nosein. And therefore, if the Makaba wants to receive it, it's Amos Mechaveru of Alavrai, we go based on Chazaka. So we'll say that Reb Meir, who says that the burden of proof is on the nosein, is aligned with Reb Nosson, who says as Linan Basar Hashta. And currently the nosein is a bari, he's healthy, and therefore the burden of proof is on him to prove that at the time of the gifting he was a shchiv mira. The Rabbanon, who say that is on the Makabel to bring, the burden of proof is on the Makabel, they align with Rabbi Yaakov, who says that we go based on Chazaka, and right now the nosein has the stuff, and the Makabel wants to extract it from him, so the burden of proof is on the Makabel. Reb Meir, Reb Nosson, so as I just explained, Reb Meir aligns with Reb Nosson that Azlina Basar Hashta, and the nosein is currently a bari, and therefore he has to prove that he was a shchiv mira. For Rabbanon Reb Yaakov, the Rabbanon go based on Reb Yaakov, who says that we go based on Chazaka, and right now the nosein has the stuff, and the Makabel wants to take it from him, so the burden of proof is on the Makabel. Azoy. Rav Chizda Rabba bar Rav Huna Amrei Rai B'Kiyum Ashtar. Rav Chizda and Rabba bar Rav Huna say that the way to bring proof would be to be Mekayim the Shtar, i.e. For the Makabel to validate the document, and then he can collect the matana. Kamiflage be mod b'shtar sheksavo tzarich lekaymo demer savar mod b'shtar sheksavo eino tzarich lekaymo Rabbanan tzarich mod b'shtar sheksavo tzarich lekaymo. Wah! It's a gishmak suger. It's gonna be a gishmak daf. So I feel like the onset of mush approaching. It's not here yet. It's like with the power washers in the morning. You can sense them far off, and you can sense that they're going to be here any minute. So, similarly with the mush, it's not here, and it might not even come. It's not as bad as the power washers. The power washers is an ander ezach, but the mush may or may not come. It may though. Now, mod v'shtar sheksavo tzarich l'kaimo ein tzarich l'kaimo. It's like Bava Metzia. It's in your bones. So here's the thing. The thing is, the nosein, right, the person who we're not sure if he's a shchiv mira or not, or is a bari, the nosein admitted that he wrote the document, right? He's admitting that he wrote the document, just that he's also saying in the same breath that he was a shchiv mira. So Reb Meir says, what is it? Right? So Reb Meir says, "Moda b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich lekaymo." But actually, let's start with the Chachamim. I prefer to go from that direction. The Chachamim say that it's on the Makabel to be Mekayim the shtar, because the Chachamim say, "Moda b'shtar sheksavo tzarich lekaymo," that even though the nosein admitted that he wrote the document, still the burden of proof is on the Makabel to validate that the document is a valid document. That even though he's moda b'shtar sheksavo, nonetheless, tzarich l'kayim, the Makabel needs to be mekayim. Whereas Reb Meir says, moda b'shtar sheksavo ain't tzarich l'kayim, that no, once the nosein admitted that he wrote it, now the burden of proof is on him, and he needs to prove with witnesses that he was actually a shchiv mira. So moda b'shtar sheksavo, once he admits that he wrote the document, ein tzarich l'kaymo, the Makabel does not need to be mekayim it. Rather, the burden of proof is now on the nosein. Okay, so let's read that inside. So Rav Chizda Rabba Ravuna Amrei, Rav Chizda Rabba Ravuna say, Rai b'kim ashtar, that the Rai is the right that the when we're talking about, at least according to the Chacham, when we're talking about bringing a proof for the Makabel, it's being Mekayim the Shtar. Kol Miflagei, Machlokes between Rav Meir and the Chacham is b'moda b'shtar she'ksavu tzarich l'kaimo. Whether or not we say moda b'shtar she'ksavu, that once somebody admits that he wrote a document, does the Makabel still need to be Mekayim it or not? The Rav Meir said moda b'shtar she'ksavu eino tzarich l'kaimo. The Rav Meir holds that once the nosein admits that he wrote the document, well then the Makabel does not need to validate it. Rather, the burden of proof would now be on the nosein to prove that he was in fact a shchiv mira. Rabbanan Savrei was the rabbis told that even though the nosein admitted that he wrote the document, nonetheless the Makabel needs to validate the document in order to collect. But this machlokes between Rav Meir and the Chachamim of moda b'shtar she'ksavu tzarich l'kaimo or einu tzarich l'kaimo, we already know this machlokes. We have it from a different place, a place in Ksubis. The Tana that we learned in the Brisa, ein ne'emanin lefoslo. Divrei Rav Meir v'Chacham om ne'emanin. Cheva, who can tell me what this is talking about? This is talking about a scenario where Shimon lent $1,000 to Reuven, okay? Now, Shimon has a document saying as much, right? Shimon has a document saying that he lent $1,000 to Reuven, therefore he's owed $1,000. Reuven owes him $1,000. And there are witnesses that signed on the document. However, the witnesses say that while, yes, this is our signatures, we were coerced, or we were minors, we were invalid, we were puzzle, we were not valid signatories, we were not allowed, we were invalid signature people, i.e. the document is no good. Yes, we signed the document, but we were invalid as witnesses. And this is talking about a situation where Reuven, the borrower, admitted that he wrote that document. So you see why this is interesting. On the one hand, Reuven, the borrower, admitted that he wrote the document. Now the question is, now that he admitted that he wrote the document, do we still need a kiyum shtaris? So Reb Meir says, Moda b'shtar she'ksavu ein tzarich l'kaimo. And therefore, once Reuven admits that he wrote the document, he has to pay it. Ein tzarich l'kaimo. You don't need to do a kiyum shtaris. We don't even need to go there. And therefore, once Reuven admits that he wrote the document, he has to pay. Ein tzarich l'kaimo. We don't need a kiyum shtaris. He said he wrote the document, he has to pay. Whereas the Chachamim say, Moda b'shtar she'ksavu tzarich l'kaimo, that even though Reuven admitted that he wrote the document, we still need to be Mekayim the Shtar. And in this case, we can't be Mekayim the Shtar because the witnesses said that they're invalid. So we see that Reb Meir says, Moda b'shtar she'ksavu ein tzarich l'kaimo, and the Chacham say, Moda b'shtar she'ksavu tzarich l'kaimo. Again, right, the Tana, right, we already see this machlokes between Reb Meir and the Chacham. The Tana that we learned by saying, "Ein na'amanin lefoso de Reb Meir." Reb Meir says that we don't trust, that those witnesses are not believed to passel the document, right? Okay, fine. They're not believed to say that, right, to passel the document. We don't believe in the passel document, i.e., once Reuven admits that he wrote the document, that's it. But the Chacham say ne'amanin, that they are believed to passel the document, i.e., we have to be Mekayim the Shtar, and we can't be Mekayim the Shtar anymore because they passeled it. Okay, Tzricha, we need both cases. We need the case of the Shchiv Mira as well as the Love. Because the Iyid Marhahi, if we'd only have the case of the Love, you see, the thing is, Chachamim say Tzarich L'Kaimo, right? The Chachamim say that we believe the witnesses to say that they were invalid. In that case, the Chacham would say that we believe them, and that Moda b'shtar she'ksavu tzarich l'kaimo, because there are actual witnesses. You have witnesses saying that the document is invalid. right? That's where the Rabbanan say that and that we believe them, and that the document is problematic. Because you have actual witnesses witnesses are testifying that this is a bad document. That's a problem. But in our case of the Shchiv Mira, maybe they would agree with Reb Meir. That meaning, what's going on with the Shchiv Mira? He's saying, yes, I wrote the document, but I was a Shchiv Mira. Reb Meir is saying that once he says that he wrote the document, the burden of proof is on him. Maybe the Chacham would agree. Because the Lav Kol Kamine, he doesn't have the power. Meaning, once he says that he wrote the document, maybe the Chacham would agree that he doesn't have the power to say, but I was a Shchiv Mira. No, maybe they would agree with Reb Meir that once he says that he wrote the document, the burden of proof is on him. So Kamash Malan, that no, even here they say that the burden of proof is on the Makabel to be Mekayim the Shtar, Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo, Tzarech L'Kaimo. So Emelov, Itmar Beha, and if you would only have the case of the Shchiv Mira Beha Kam Reb Meir, I could argue that this is where Reb Meir says that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo, because there's no witnesses, right? To the contrary, right? Meaning over here, the notion is simply saying, yes, I wrote the document, but I was a Shchiv Mira. Oh, maybe here, that Reb Meir Dafka says over here, that once he admits it, the burden of proof is on him. Where am I? Aval Bahach, but in the case of the Love, where you have actual witnesses invalidating the Shtar, maybe I would say that Reb Meir agrees with the Chachamim that the document would be problematic. Therefore, we need both cases. We need the case of the Love and the Shchiv Mira to say that Reb Meir and the Chacham maintain their opinions. That Reb Meir says and the Chacham say in both scenarios, both by the Love as well as by the Shchiv Mira. Fine. B'chein Omar Rabba, and similarly Rabba says like Rav Huna, that Raya Be'edim, that the proof is with witnesses, and that the Chachamim Be'etzim say that the Makabel would have to prove that the Nosein was a Bari. Omar Le Abaye says to Rabba, my time, why do the rabbis say that the burden of proof is on the Makabel to prove that the Nosein was a Bari? If you want to say, well, because since in general a document, Matnas Bari, in general a document from a healthy person would say, well, right, that he was, I guess, in a state where he was walking on his feet in the shuk. Right? He would explicitly say that he was healthy. But here it doesn't say that he was healthy. So Shema Min Shchiv Mira Have, and therefore it must mean that he was a Shchiv Mira, and therefore the burden of proof is on the Makabel to prove that he was a Bari. But Adrab, I can argue fakert. Midechulu Ksivu Kad Kotzev Rami Ba'arse. Well, if it was a Matna Shchiv Mira, then it should have said that he was lying in his deathbed. But this doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say that he was a Shchiv Mira. It doesn't say that he was a Bari. So Shema Min Bari Ave. So it doesn't say that he was a man of Shchiv Mira, so I could argue that he was a Bari. So Abai is trying to figure out how come the Chacham assume that the burden of proof is on the Makabel. So Rabbi answers, Abai because look, since the document doesn't say anything in it, doesn't say that he was healthy, doesn't say that he was sick, so therefore I could argue that he was healthy, I could argue that he was sick. And therefore we say Uki Mamonim B'cheskas Mari. We keep the property where it is. Right now the Nosein has the property, therefore the burden of proof is on the Makabel to prove that he was a Bari at the time. Okay. Now we say that this machlokas about, do we say Raya Be'edim or Raya Be'kiyum Ashtar, this is a machlokas also between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. The Rabbi Yochanan Omar says Rabbi Yochanan Raya Be'edim. Rabbi Yochanan says that the Raya is with the witnesses. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omar Raya Be'kiyum Ashtar, whereas Rish Lakish says that the proof is with Kiyum Ashtar. Eisei Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan asks a kasha on Rish Lakish. Ma'aseh b'bnei Brak. There was a Maise in Bnei Brak. Oh, okay, it sounds like Yaakov died and he had 3 kids, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. He could have had 5 kids, whatever. In my example that I'm making up, he had 3 kids, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. And Levi sold part of the estate. Okay, Levi sold from the estate to some buyers, to some lekuches. Okay, and now the lekuches, the buyers, want to come collect what they bought. The assumption for now is that the items are still they haven't yet received their items, so their items are still with Reuven and Shimon, the brothers. Now the brothers Reuven and Shimon, they come and they argue. Wait, yes, I agree. Yeah, while we recognize that it is a valid document, however, he was a minor at the time. He was a kohen. Interesting. So we have a scenario of moda b'shtar sheksava, right? They are admitting that they wrote it. Okay, fine. But anyways, it was like fine. Okay, so the brothers are saying, yeah, but he had no right to sell you these items because he was a minor. And the lekuches then went and they asked Rabbi Akiva, Ma'levodko, can we dig up the grave and we can check his pubic area and we'll see if he has pubic hairs, he was an adult and it's a valid sale and we can collect if he doesn't have pubic hairs. So he's a minor. And okay, we got shifted. Omer Loim, Rabbi Akiva responds to them, you cannot desecrate his grave. Ve'od, and more so, even if you were to have dug up his grave, it wouldn't have been helpful because after death, physical identifiers in the body can change, and therefore, even if it appears that he's an adult, it may be misleading. He may still be a minor. So Rabbi Yochanan says, look, I understand according to me that the proof is with witnesses. And therefore, what happened? The Reuven and Shimon said that, look, you need to bring witnesses that he was a minor. Since the Reuven and Shimon said to the buyers, bring witnesses, find witnesses that our brother was an adult. That is why they came and said to Rabbi Akiva, hey, can we dig up the grave and check if he's an adult? Because they couldn't find... Wait, where am I? I think I skipped. Since the brothers said to the lekuches, you need to find witnesses, but they were unable to find witnesses. That is why they came to Rabbi Akiva and they said, hey, Rabbi Akiva, we can't find any witnesses, but maybe we can dig up the grave to check. But Rabbi Yochanan asks Rish Lakish, he says, according to you, that the way that they would prove their case would be with Kiyum Shtaris, Lamlu Levodko. Why do they need to dig up the grave? Lekaimu Shtarayu, Velukmu Benichse. Why do they don't need to dig up the grave, they need to do a Kiyum Shtaris, that's what they need. So it says Rabbi Yochanan, according to me, that you need witnesses to prove whether he's an adult or a minor. Okay, so I understand why they had an interest in digging up the grave. But according to you, Rish Lakish, it's about Kiyum Shtaris. What the point? Why are you digging up graves? Just do a Kiyum Shtaris. Validate the document. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan asked Rish Lakish, it must be that it's that the burden of proof is on the buyers to bring witnesses. And they couldn't, therefore they asked to dig up the grave. So Rish Lakish answers, 1 second. Rabbi Yochanan, you're assuming that Reuven and Shimon still have possession of these items. But why are you assuming that Reuven and Shimon still have these items? V'ka'asu lekuchis ma'arare, and the lekuchis are coming to extract those items. Nichse b'cheskas lekuchis kaime fakert. The nechasim, meaning, okay, so the nechasim are with the lekuchis. V'ka'asu b'nei mishpacha v'kam ma'arare. And it is Reuven and Shimon who are coming and trying to get the items back. And therefore, yes, it is about kiyum shtaros, but since in this case it's the brothers that are trying to get it back, obviously they're not being mekayim the shtar. They need to bring witnesses that he was a minor. Okay. Fine. Because the Bnei Mishpacha and the Bnei Mishpacha are coming and they're trying to bring proofs, and they need witnesses that he was a minor, but they didn't have witnesses, so then they wanted to dig up the grave. Taka makes sense, right? The Gemara wants to argue that Taka makes sense to say that we're talking about where the lekuchis already have the items, and that the brothers are being ma'arer, and the brothers went to Rabbi Akiva. Because in the story, in the incident, so we're saying that it makes sense if we say that it's the brothers who are coming to Rabbi Akiva, because the brothers come to Rabbi Akiva. They say, Rabbi Akiva, we want to dig up the grave to prove that our brother was a minor. And Rabbi Akiva responds, you can't do that. It's not covered a mace. It's desecrating the mace. And they were quiet, because after all, they're talking about their brother. And when Rabbi Akiva pointed out that it's not covered a mace, they accepted it quietly. They said, okay, fine. But so this makes sense if we're talking about the brothers going to Rabbi Akiva. That's why they were quiet. But if it was the other way around, if the brothers had the items and it was the lekuchis who were desperately trying to retrieve those items that they paid for, and they went to Rabbi Akiva and say, hey, can we dig up the grave? And Rabbi Akiva says it's not covered on mace. They're going to say, I don't care about covered mace. The mace didn't show cover to us. Why should we show cover to the mace? Right? If it's the lekuchis coming to Rabbi Akiva, amai shaske, why would they be quiet? Rabbi Akiva says it's not covered on mace. Why would they be quiet? They'll say to Rabbi Akiva, onon zuze yavinon le, linova v'linova. We paid for these items. Covered on mace. We paid for these items. He's a crook. We paid him. He never delivered. And you're telling me it's not covered on mace. I don't care about covered on mace right now. Dig it up. Let's see if he's an adult or a child. Therefore, we want to say that from the fact that the brother after Rabbi Akiva said that it's not covered on mace, there was sort of acceptance on the other end. It must be that it was the brothers rather than the lekuchis. Imishuma lo iria. So that's not really such a great proof, because you could still argue that the other way around. You could still argue that it is in fact talking about where the brothers still have it, and the lekuchis came to Rabbi Akiva. Okay, but then then why were they quiet? Well, I'll tell you what happened. That this is what Rabbi Akiva says to the lekuchis. You could argue, Chada. Firstly, firstly, you can't dig up the grave because it's not kavod mace. Now, and if you're going to say, well, we don't care about kavod mace, this guy's a crook, well, that's still not going to help you. Digging up the grave is not going to help, because these physical identifiers can change after death, and therefore even digging up the grave won't help you. So you could still argue that it's talking. So it's not a definitive proof that the lekuchas have it. You could still argue that the brothers still have it. Okay, fine. Okay, Givald. Now, we move on. Well, not quite move on. We're still in the same sugya we're going to continue discussing now the sugya of mod b'shtar sheksavo tzarich lekaimo. Shal Reb Shimon ben Lakish as Reb Yechanan, Rish Lakish as Reb Yechanan, zo sheshnui b'mishnas bar kapara. That which is taught in the collection of brises of bar kapara. Right? We've seen several of these. Right? Of course, there's Rav Chia and Rav Oshaya have the Tosefta. We have the Mishnas bar kapara. I believe that there were others. I think maybe Levi had his own brises. Okay, they're all that kind of similar generation of like Rebbe who kind of edited the Misnayos, and then there's a Toseftis and a few others in that generation have their own collection of brises. Anyways, so Reb Shlokish asked Reb Yochanan, that which is taught in the Mishnah's Bar Kapore, Hareshaya Ochel Sode Uva. Okay, so if you have Ruvain, and Ruvain was on a field, this is like Cheskas Habatim kind of stuff. Remember, Cheskas Habatim was ages ago. Cheskas Habatim was like Daf Chof Tes of Masechta BavaBasra. We're already on Daf Kuf Nun Daled. We're like 125 pages after that. Crazy. You've learned a lot since then. So you have Ruvain, he's on the field and he's eating the fruits. Bechezkas sheishalo, under the assumption that it says, Vikara olav echad ir lomar shalihu. Shimon comes, the previous owner Shimon comes, and he says, Ruvain, what are you doing here? That's my field. Beotzi zeh es ono lomar shemachartali, or shenasatali b'matono. And Ruvain takes out a document and he says, look, see, here's the document. The document says either that it was sold to Ruvain or that it was given to him as a gift. So now, Im Omar Eini Makir B'Shtar Zemei Olam. Okay, so if Shimon says, I've never seen that document before, Yizkayim B'Shtar B'Chosomov. Okay, so then Ruvain is going to have to validate the document in order to prove that it is a valid document, and then once he validates the document, he's proven that it's his field. But im Omar shtar pasimu zeh o shtar amono. So this is where it gets interesting for us. What if Shimon says, "Oh yeah, I know that document. I know that document very well. I wrote that document. However, it was a shtar pasim. You asked me to write you a document so you could look like a big knacker. You came to me and you said, Shimon, I want to be a big knacker. I want everybody to think, I own all sorts of fields. I'm a real estate mogul. I bought your field. I bought a bunch of other fields in town. Everybody should think I'm a big real estate mogul. The fact of the matter is that it's not true. It's Shimon's field. But Reuven asked Shimon to do him a favor and make him look like a big knacker. So Shimon says, yeah, I recognize that document. I wrote it. But I wrote it because you asked me to do you a favor by making you look like big stuff. Right? Shtar pasim uzeh, or shtar amana. Or that Shimon says, well, yeah, it's a sad story with that document. Yeah, I wrote it, but what happened was you were going to buy this field from me and pay me for it. And I, like a silly person in retrospect, wrote you a document that it's your field, but you never ended up paying me. Right? Shtar amana, right? This was a shtar that I wrote, I guess, on the belief that you would pay me, that I sold you the field, you never paid me for it. So this is like kind of similar to our Mishnah, right? Similar to, right? But the notion says, Makabal, I wrote the document, but I was a shchibmira. So here also, right? Shimon is saying, yeah, I wrote the document, but it's a shtar pasim, it's a shtar amano. It's not a valid document. So in that case, so he's modeh b'shtar sheksavu. Im yesh edim, if there are witnesses, halech achar edim. V'im lav halech achar shtar. So look, if Shimon could bring witnesses that it's in fact a shtar pasim or a shtar amana, okay, so then he could take the field away from Reuven. It's his field. It's Shimon's field. But if he doesn't have witnesses, well then we go based on the document. Right? Shimon admitted that he wrote the document, and he doesn't have witnesses to prove that it's a shtar pasim or shtar amana. Well, then it's a valid document, and Reuven does not need to be mekayim. So we're saying that it's a modeh b'shtar sheksavu ein tzarich l'kaymo. That once Shimon admits that he wrote the document, Reuven does not need to be mekayim. The burden of proof is on Shimon, like Reb Meir in our Mishnah, who says that once the no-sain admits that he wrote the document, the burden of proof is on him that it was a shchibmira. The Makabel does not need to validate it. So Leimer Reb Meir, so let's say that this brisa is in accordance with Reb Meir, The Amr Moed B'Shtashik Savo Einu Tzarich L'Kaimo. That once Shimon admits that he wrote the document, Reuven does not need to be Mekayim the document. It's Reuven's field. For Lo Rabbanan, it's not the rabbis, because according to rabbis, they would say Amotzi Mechaver Olav Araya, and it would be, the burden of proof would be on Reuven. Right? Moed B'Shtashik Savo Tzarich L'Kaimo, Reuven would still need to be Mekayim. Amalei Lo, Rabbi Yochanan says no. Shani Omer, because I will say Rabbi Yochanan says that I will say that according to everybody, it's not just Rabbi Meir, it's according to everybody. That once Shimon admits that it's a valid document, Reuven does not need to be Mekayim. But what do you mean? What do you mean everybody admits? It's machlokas. The Tani that we learned in a Brisa on Amud Aleph. Ein Naman in the false of Divrei Meir. The Meir says that when the witnesses on the document say that they were ketanim, for example, they don't pass the document, because once the borrower admits that he wrote the document, so then he has to pay. Divrei Meir, that's Rabbi Meir's opinion, because Moed B'Shtashik Savo ain't tzarich l'kaim v'chacham nemanin. Whereas the Chacham say that we do believe the witnesses, and Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaim. We have to be mekayim the shtar, and the witnesses says that they were invalid. It's a problem. So what do you mean, Rish Lakish says Rabbi Yochanan? What do you mean that everybody says Moed B'Shtashik Savo ain't tzarich l'kaim? It's machlokas. Rabbi Meir says ain't tzarich l'kaim, the Chacham say tzarich l'kaim. So Amar Lei, so Rabbi Yochanan says, well, yeah, in that case, fine. The Chacham say tzarich l'kaimo, because you have witnesses who are saying, you have witnesses testifying that the document is invalid. Sure, if in that case we have witnesses who are disqualifying the document, so we say you have to be mekayim it. But in the case of the field, of Reuven eating the field, and Shimon says, I wrote the document, even the Chacham would admit, Ein Tzarich L'Kaimo, because once he says that he wrote the document, we don't just believe him to say, but it was a shtar amana. Once he says he wrote it, so we have no reason to disqualify. We don't have witnesses testifying to the contrary. So Iu Kol Kamine, right? But when it's just him, he doesn't have the power to say it's an invalid document. So sure, if there are witnesses invalidating the document, the Chacham would say, fine, Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaimo. But in this case, where Reuven's eating from the field and Shimon says, yeah, I wrote you the document of the sale or the gift, but it was a shtar amana. No, the Chacham would agree with, right, that Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich ein tzarich l'kaimo. Reuven would not have to validate it once Shimon admitted that he wrote it. Fine. Omarle, but Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, V'alo mishimcha amru, but Rabbi Yochanan, they said in your name, Yafe ir aru b'nei mishpacha, that in the case of the inheritance, when Levi sold items to the lekuchis, apparently you said, Rabbi Yochanan, that when the Reuven and Shimon say, yes, the document was written, the document of sale was written, however, our brother was a minor, they are believed. And the burden of proof is on the lekuchis, i.e., Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaimo. And the burden of proof is on the lekuchis. Right? Yafe iraru b'nei mishpacha, Omar lei. So Rabbi Yochanan responds, Zo Elazar Amra. So Rabbi Yochanan says, well, no, I didn't say that. Rabbi Elazar, my student, Rabbi Elazar said that, not me. Ani lo amarti davos ha'olam, I never said that. But Reb Zera says, look, im yichpor Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar tamido. Look, if Rabbi Yochanan is going to say that was Rabbi Elazar's opinion, I never said it. Okay, fine, he could say that it's Rabbi Elazar, not him. But yichpor Rabbi Yanai Rabbo. What about the fact that Rabbi Yanai, his Rebbe, says Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaimo? So how could Rabbi Yochanan say that everyone agrees Moed B'Shtashik Savo ain't tzarich l'kaimo, if Rabbi Yochanan's own Rebbe, Rabbi Yanai, says Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaimo? Dam Rabbi Yanai am a Rebbe. The Rabbi Yanai says name of Rebbe, Moed B'Shtashik Savo tzarich l'kaimo. that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzorich L'Kaimo. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say that everyone agrees Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzorich L'Kaimo if Rabbi Yanai's own Rebbe says, if Rabbi Yochanan's own Rebbe, Rabbi Yanai, says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzorich L'Kaimo v'Amrulei Rabbi Yochanan. Not only that, but Rabbi Yochanan says to Rabbi Yanai, Rebbe, my teacher, Lo Mishnah Senri Zo, isn't this punct what our Mishnah says? That in our Mishnah we have the Nosin and the Makabel. The Nosin says he was a Shchivmira. The Makabel says he was a Bari, and the Chacham say that the burden of proof is on the Makabel. And Ein Raya Elo B'Kiyum Ashtar. And how are they going to be? How are they going to prove that he was a Bari? By being Mekayim the Shtar. So we see in our Mishnah that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo, that the Nosin admitted that he wrote the document, but the Makabel Tzarech L'Kaimo. Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. So here, Rabbi Yochanan had said a few minutes ago that everyone agrees Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo. Yet, Rabbi Yanai, his Rebbe, is quoting Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo, and Rabbi Yochanan is bringing a proof from our Mishnah, from the fact that the Chacham say that the Makabel needs to, the burden of proof is on the Makabel, and how is he proving it? With Kiyum Shtaris. So clearly, Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo, even though the Nosin was Makayim that he wrote, was Moda, he admitted that he wrote the document, still, the Makabel needs to be Makayim it. Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. And what's also interesting, and what's also notable, as we're going to see in a few lines, is that Rabbi Yochanan just said that the raya that the Makabel brings is Kiyum Shtaris. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, we had said earlier that the machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is that Rabbi Yochanan says that the raya is be'edim. Rish Lakish says that it's with Kiyum Shtaris. That over here, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that it's, what does he say? He says, Ein raya el b'kiyum ashtar. So we're going to get to that in a few lines. Okay. Wow, there's a lot going on here. But for now, the point is that Rabbi Yochanan had said that everyone agrees that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo, and yet, clearly there are those who say Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. But now continues Reb Zera. Bram Nirin Divrei Rabbeinu Yosef. However, with all of this discussion of Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo, ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo, says Reb Zera, actually, it appears like Rabbeinu Yosef says, I assume that that's Rav Yosef. Then Rabbeinu Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. That Rav Yosef says the name of Rav Yehuda, who says the name of Shmuel. Zo divrei chachamim. That Rav Yosef says the name of Rav Yehuda and the name of Shmuel. That actually our Mishnah is backwards. That when our Mishnah says in the ratio that the burden of proof is on the Nosein, that's not the opinion of Reb Meir, it's the opinion of the Chachamim. That Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo. However, Reb Meir Omer, Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. But Reb Meir says that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo, i.e. the Makabel needs to do a Kiyum Shtaris. Okay. So says Reb Zera that actually it seems that the correct way to learn this whole sugya of Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo or not is actually, it's not that Reb Meir says Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo and the Chachamim say Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. Rather, it's the opposite. The Chachamim, this is super important, the Chachamim are the ones who say Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo, and it's Reb Meir who says Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo Tzarech L'Kaimo. Umay Divrei Hakol, when Rabbi Yochanan says that everyone says that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo, D'Rabbanan L'Gab Reb Meir Divrei Hakoli, because the Rabbanan relative to Reb Meir, i.e. Yachid v'Rabim, i.e. the Rabbanan versus Reb Meir who's a Yachid, the Rabbanan are going to be like Divrei Hakol. That's why Reb Yochanan said that everyone agrees Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo. Because actually, after we flip things around, it's the opinion of the Chachamim that Moda B'Shtar Sheksavo ain't Tzarech L'Kaimo. Va'ipcha Tnan. But one second, but our Mishnah says the opposite. That the Chachamim say that that the Chachamim say no, flip around our Mishnah. That it is the Chachamim who say Mod b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich likaimo, and Reb Meir says Mod b'shtar sheksavo tzarich likaimo. V'atanya ein ne'aman lefosu divrei Meir v'chachamim ne'aman. What about the Brisa where the witnesses said that we were minors, and Reb Meir says they are not believed? Ayi Mod b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich likaimo, and the Chachamim say Mod b'shtar sheksavo tzarich likaimo. Ipuch, flip that around too. And then it's the Chacham who say Ein Tzarech, and Reb Meir says Tzarech. But Rabbi Yochanan Rai Be'edim Kamer, and as I pointed out a few minutes ago, Rabbi Yochanan had said earlier in the page, right? We said Rabbi Yochanan says that Rai Be'edim, and Rish Lakish says Raya B'kiyum Shtaris, and yet on the third line before it gets wide, Rabbi Yochanan says Ein Raya Ela B'kiyum Ashtar. That Rabbi Yochanan says that we're talking about Kiyum Shtaris. Where am I? Ipuch. Flip around that as well. That it's Rabbi Yochanan who says Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, and Rish Lakish says Be'edim. Lipuch Nami Tiyuvta. So Lema Lipuch Nami Tiyuvta. Okay, well, if we're flipping everything around, and we're saying that Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, or let's say this, we're saying that Rish Lakish's opinion is Raya Be'edim, and Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is Raya B'kiyum Ashtar. Well, Rabbi Yochanan had asked a kasha against Rish Lakish from the story in Bnei Brak with the brothers and Reuven and Shimon and Levi and the Lekuchis. That was a question that Rabbi Yochanan, who had said at that point Raya Be'edim, was posing to Rish Lakish, who had said Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, and Rabbi Yochanan was bringing that as a proof for Raya Be'edim. So if we're flipping around the opinions of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, well then we should also flip around that question and say that it's Rish Lakish who's challenging Rabbi Yochanan. No, don't flip it around, because actually we could still say that Rabbi Yochanan, who now we're saying is Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, is still posing that same question to Rish Lakish, who says Raya Be'edim. Wow, it's complicated stuff. Hochi ka'amar le Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish, and now Rabbi Yochanan, who now says Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, is posing the following question from Bnei Brak, in the story of Bnei Brak. He's posing the following question to Rish Lakish, who says Raya Be'edim. Bishtam l'didi, I understand according to me, Damina Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, that I say that the proof is with Kiyum Shtaris. So hainu de mishkachas lo denachte lekuchas lenechasim. So I understand how the lekuchas got the stuff. Holy shnikes, what does this mean? Because we had said, right, initially we had thought that the Reuven and Levi had sold the stuff to lekuchas, Levi died, Reuven and Shimon still had the items. But then we said, no, actually, the lekuchas already had the items. The question, how did the lekuchas get it? Well, if we're saying like me, says Rabbi Yochanan, and we flip around the Mishnah, so it's the opinion of the Chachamim, Mod b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich likaimo, which means that once the brothers admitted that the document was valid, but then they argued that it was a cotton, but they admitted that the document was valid, well then the lekuchas don't need to be makayim. The burden of proof is on them, and therefore the lekuchas went and took the items. That's how they got it. Right, so again, according to me, that I say that we're talking about Kiyum Shtaris, and we're talking about where we flip around the Mishnah, and the Chacham's opinion is Mod b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich likaimo. The Amina Raya B'kiyum Ashtar, I say that the proof is with Kiyum Ashtar, and Mod b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich likaimo. So once the brothers admit that it's a valid document, well then the burden of proof is to prove that is on them to prove that the brother was a minor. Until then, they can take it. Ein tzarich likaimo. That's how the lekuchas got the stuff. But according to you, that according to you, that you say the proof is with witnesses, and also you don't flip around the Mishnah, and therefore, according to you, Rish Lakish, the opinion of the Chachamim is that the burden of proof is on the lekuchas to prove that the brother, that Levi was an adult, how could the lekuchas have ever taken hold of the property? The burden of these items, the burden of proof is on them. So Omar Lei, so Rish Lakish responds to Rabbi Yochanan, Modina lach be'irer de bnei mishpache de lav irerhu. That I agree with you, Rabbi Yochanan, that in this particular case, the argument of the Reuven and Shimon of the brothers is invalid because my ka'amre, what's their argument? Yes, it's a valid document, but our brother was a minor. That makes no sense. They're saying he was a minor. Because we have a chazaka that the witnesses who signed on the document would not have signed on the document unless everybody involved in the document was an adult. And therefore, that is why, in this particular case, how did the lekuchis get hold of the stuff? They got hold of the stuff because the argument of the brothers of Reuven and Shimon is not a believable argument. That they're saying, yes, it's a valid document, but our brother was a katan. We can assume that if the document was written, everybody involved in the document was an adult, right? This is a proper kind of official document that would make sure first that everybody was an adult, and therefore their argument is not a good argument, says Rish Lakish, and that is why the lekuchas have it. Wow, this was some daf. This is a real daf. I think it's probably about 50 minutes. It's a real starke daf. Wow, talked about real stuff over here. So we had this machlokas about is the proof in our Mishnah. We said that the nosing needs to bring a proof, the makabel needs to bring a proof. Is it the proof with witnesses, or is it maybe talking about kiyum shtaris? Right, that was machlokas that we had. And then within kiyum shtaris, well, first of all, if we said it's talking about witnesses, we kind of aligned it with the machlokas yesterday between Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Nosson. The other option was that we're talking about kiyum shtaris, and then we got into the whole argument about moda b'shtar sheksavot tzarich l'kaimo or not. Initially, we had said that Reb Meir says ain't tzarich l'kaimo, the Chacham say tzarich l'kaimo. Ultimately, we ended up flipping it around. Very, very interesting stuff. Peace out.